Hello again. This is Ray Morales with the Blind Spot, and I'm happy to announce that my guest today is Jim Riley. And Jim, why don't you tell the people who you are and what you do?
Sure. Yeah, I'm a veteran. I'm a retired engineer, and I like to make gadgets to help people in sports, in adaptive sports. Um, I got involved with an organization called Team River Runner some many years ago, and that was been a great experience. Just working with a lot of inspiring people, and so that's kind of who I am.
What branch of service did you serve?
I served in the Marine Corps. I right out of high school in 1969. I went in for a 2-year enlistment as your basic 0311 rifleman, a grunt. Did that for 2 years. Got off active duty and was offered a spot at a reserve Marine helicopter squadron. And they offered me a stripe, and I said, "Sure, I'll take that." And put in 4 years in an HMH 772, which was a Marine helicopter, heavy helicopter squadron, CH-53, CH-46s. That was kind of fun. There was a desk job also, which was a nice break from being a mud grunt. So, so yeah.
Cool. Then what did you do after that?
Well, I used my GI Bill benefits and went to school, majored in electronics engineering. The Marine Corps offered me to stay in as a go to an avionics school, and I thought long and hard about it. I thought, no, I'm going to get out. The Vietnam was winding down. Wasn't a lot for me to do, and I would have had to put more time in for training. So decided, well, I got accepted to college. I'll go out and do that, and got started a career when I got out of school in on Wall Street as a computer field engineer, mostly fixing computer equipment on Wall Street.
Oh,
And
wow.
that pretty much went through most of my career. At one point, probably about halfway through, I'm going back maybe about 15, 18 years ago, I transferred into developing software. Again, with banks. Not glorious of being working for banks, helping banks make money, but it paid the bills. So
Yeah.
that's what I did. And somewhere along that line, I got interested in whitewater kayaking, and a buddy of myself took lessons, and we stayed with it, and I became a certified whitewater kayak instructor, and really enjoyed that. And that's kind of how I started me down this path, I think, at this point.
So how did you
So,
get hooked up with Team River Runner?
yeah, my daughter was serving in the U.S. Navy in Italy, and she sent me this story that was on, I guess, Stars and Stripes. It was an article about Team River Runner and what they were doing at Walter Reed. And they started around 2004, and we had a lot of wounded coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. And some of the therapists, recreational therapists, at least one of them was a kayaker. And they said, well, wonder what would happen to try and acclimate some of these folks that were trying to adjust to the new injuries. What would happen if we brought a few kayaks in the pool at the hospital and see if we can get them to play around a little with that kind of a sports thing and enjoy it. And uh, the therapists were for it. They thought it was going to be like a one-time thing. But then when they realized, gee, we can adapt these boats for amputees, for all kinds of injuries, and then adapt our training for what they were dealing with, uh, they realized, gee, they're having a blast with this. And you get somebody out of a wheelchair and put them in a kayak, they move around like everyone else. And we adapt our training for blindness and visual impairment with spinal cord injuries, with neurological and PTSD. It was a way of to get people off the couch and moving around and enjoying life. And they started enjoying it. And the therapist and docs saw that, hey, this is really benefit benefiting our vets. It was helping them with their balance and control and just recreational. They invited them back, and today, 20 some years later, we have almost 60 chapters around the country that are based in um, VA hospitals, but they're also based at military bases, universities, some are YMCA's, move all around. So it got quite popular, and it kind of sprung on it. So it was a good thing to start, and
Right?
it caught on.
Yeah, it's not just a military thing, it's for civilians also, right?
Correct. Yeah. We get a lot of our funding through the VA, but we certainly invite non-veterans to participate as well in it because it's good for everybody. It's good for the vets who learn to kayak, regardless of whatever they're dealing with, to work with and train other people as well. And so, yeah, we're proud that some of our best volunteers are non-veterans as well. So,
Right. So moving on, you also are an inventor, is that correct?
yeah, I kind of got involved with that. Um, what our director contacted me and said we have a vet who had lost his vision in Afghanistan and was getting into kayaking. He was doing quite well with it, and we typically will have the way we guide someone has lost their vision. Normally, is we will have an audible uh, component where we will chant something. Usually, the phrase "on me." We'll say that over and over, and our blind or visually impaired vet will kind of echolocate on that and determine direction. And that works well if they have good hearing in both ears,
Right.
which is needed for like a spatial direction. If they have impairment in one or both ears, then that becomes an issue. And if they have some hearing, we've used helmets with like a comm network in it. So we can talk to them, they can hear us in the ear, and that works out well. However, we had one particular vet had lost both vision and hearing. So our director asked me, gee, can we do anything that involves vibrating? He knew I had an engineering background. And I said, well, let me think about that. And we first duct taped a couple of dog training collars, the type that vibrate, for sporting dogs, hunting dogs. And we duct taped on the ends of a kayak paddle. And just as a kind of a proof of concept, that we had one of our blind vets paddle around with that. And yeah, we could direct him right and left, but it left a lot to be desired. But at least it said, hey, this might work. So then I got busy, and I love a challenge like that. So I started building vibration motors into a life jacket. I put five of them inside of a life jacket with a radio link. And then we had a guide that would have a little transmitter mounted on their kayak paddle. And they could follow behind our blind kayaker and send them pulses right, left, forward, backwards. And that was even better. It still left some things to desire. For one thing, from a safety perspective, in that scenario, the guide was behind our blind kayaker, so that um, they had to do that in order to observe what they're doing in order to correct it.
Mhm.
So we thought, well, gee, let's see if we can design a different system, different technology, and then move the guide out front and use a different set of technology, which is where we're at today. So um, we call it, for lack of a better name, for a number of years, it was just called Jim's Gadget or Jim's Vest or something like that. But we recently gave it a name. It's called VibroGuide, and it's just basically merging two names, vibrations and guiding. Um, and that was important because it got away from the traditional methods of guiding, which the traditional methods I kind of boiled down to what I call three T's. Um, First T is for talking. Essentially, when we guide someone, we're generally giving them verbal instructions in a kayak, and it might be audio, and they're echolocating on us. It might be through the headsets. That's all part of the talk or the audio aspect of it. The second is tactile, and we're all familiar with that. That's basically where someone takes the elbow or arm, and it's a direct connection with your guide. Might be an arm and a shoulder. For people that are runners, they will often use like a tether, like a band or a bungee cord, and use that. And the last version of this, which we're talking about today, is tactile, that's the third T, which is really a way of being able to tell direction and maybe even distance by vibrations you feel around your body. And that's what I'm going to talk a little more about, this invention, VibroGuide. So
Okay. Um, yeah, let's go ahead and get into that. I understand you have a little PowerPoint demonstration you want to, or presentation you want to bring forth.
yeah, I do. I'm going to bring it up here. I'm going to share it on our screen. And
Okay.
for the benefit of those that are either no vision or low vision, I'll describe what we're looking at. It'll kind of give me a walkthrough of what we're doing here. And this is a presentation I'm making for a large adapter organization called Move United. And let's kind of step through what VibroGuide does and how it does it a bit. But our first slide here really just shows a guide and a kayaker following a guide at the top. And there's a quote in here from another vet who says, I can feel the direction to my guide. It's like a heartbeat that points me in the right direction. And heartbeat is a good phrase because we do sort of like pulse these vibrations in the vest. And they move around depending on what direction it wants to take you in. And I'll talk a little more about that. But the requirements we had for building this thing was number one, safety. We want to make sure that it enhances safety, and it does that a number of ways. A lot of it is basically cutting out, lowering the dependence on hearing, and allows more time for the guide to be more vigilant, and for the blind person using the vest to listen to instructions. And that was, of course, number one on there, but it's really designed for what we call follow me sports. And a follow me sport is like kayaking. It is can be like skiing. It can be for bicycling, hiking, where you're generally following a guide somewhere around. What's an example? What's not an example of a follow me sport is like basketball or soccer, where you're moving around a lot and you're really following a ball around. We didn't go in that direction for it. Um, Another requirement was to lower the hearing dependence. Um, I've guided quite a few times all around the country in clinics. And one of the things I realized as a guide was that it wore my voice down after a while because you're always talking, you're always chanting something. And for the blind person who's following me, it's rough on them because their entire hearing channel is pretty much consumed with trying to determine where that direction is at and what I need to do next. So lowering that dependence was a positive for a therapeutic perspective. Um, if less of their hearing is consumed with what direction they have to go in, then it frees it up for conversation, for someone describing the environment, or just playing quiet. There's a great benefit to that, listening to birds and nature and the sound of water and all that. So that was important. Um, Another requirement is that how to work in off-grid environments. In other words, a lot of the places we wanted to take this would be places where cellular coverage may not be good, or even access to GPS.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes you get in canyons, what we call GPS canyons, or you're just out of cell phone coverage, and we didn't want to make it dependent on that. Um, Another requirement is how to be durable and waterproof. We all know vets can be rough on equipment, myself included. Uh, but we built this with using something called Pelican boxes, which are just really nice, durable, waterproof cases that people will put their wallet, their keys in whenever they do water sports, and they're really tough. So when I designed this, I built it so it would fit inside of these rough and tough cases. Um, so that was a big important. And also, I would test them by building a circuit and then putting it in one of these boxes and then sink it in my bathtub for maybe 20 minutes, half hour, put a brick or something on top of it, and then pull it up and see if it still works, see if it leaked. That was kind of the test here. Um, Another requirement is how to be light and not a big bulky thing. And the box that the electronics in is a little bulk to that, but the vest itself, for the most part, the sports vest is made out of like a lightweight mesh that allows airflow around it. Um, and I have two more requirements. We had a lot of requirements for this, but I have two more requirements. Had to be hands-free, meaning that you didn't have to need your hands in order to control what you're doing. You didn't have to hold a cell phone in front of you. Um, you wanted to be able to, use your hands for kayak, paddle, or for hiking poles or ski poles or using a cane. Um, so that was an important aspect of it. And lastly, it had to have battery life sufficient so that you're not going to be having to stop every hour or two and change the batteries out and replace it. So battery life, about roughly 6 to 8 hours. So that's usually good for a good day of an outing outside and whatnot. So that was those are the primary requirements. And um, on the slide, you see pictures of people have been using this, and there's a skier, there's a hiker, there's a kayaker, and there's a gentleman in a recumbent or a tricycle bike. We've used it in all those, and they've done well, and we've enjoyed it. Um, so I'll move to the next slide here, and let me see what I got here. Here we go. Oh, this is just about me, which we've already talked about. I'm Marine Corps kayak instructor, team river runner, all that stuff. So I'll skip over that. Anybody wants to know more about me, you're welcome to ask me. Sort of a bio page, this is. Um, Next slide talks about the technologies that I used in this. Um, and a lot of it was based, this current version that works on a beacon uh, is based on a new feature that was added into Bluetooth a couple of years ago. And it's called direction finding. And not many um, organizations or companies have used it yet, but I explored it and found that hey, this can be useful. Um, and it works by transmitting a signal, which the guide wears a beacon, which has a little transmitter in it. And the blind athlete is wearing a vest that has a specialized antenna in it that's able to determine what the direction is to that beacon. In other words, if it's 0 degrees, you're directly ahead of it. If it's plus or minus degrees, it means that it's off on an angle one way or another. And um, the electronics I have in the vest um, calculates what that angle is, and it translates it into vibrations that you feel in the vest. And I'll explain in a minute how that translates to, say, for kayaking. Um, but Combined a number of technologies, vibro sensory connections, which is the vibration motors, speech recognition we added. That was due to some suggestions that were folks who were using it. They didn't want to make it complicated, have to push a lot of buttons or use a phone app in order to program it. So I built a speech recognition module, well, actually a module that I added into it. So it allows you to talk to it. Um, it can be a little bit like Alexa you have in your home where you say Alexa and it says ready and you can say give me the weather. This works instead of Alexa, you say the word vest and it comes back and says ready and you can say increase volume or you can say vest speed fast. It allows you to increase the speed of the vibrations, which is useful for faster sport as opposed to a slow moving. Suppose you're just drifting down a creek with somebody in a kayak, and you can have it on slow. It's a little more lazy that way. And there's a number of other settings you can change as well. But we did that through voice commands, and that was real popular, and a lot of our people like that. Um, so combination of multiple things, Bluetooth and this direction finding and vibro tactile and speech recognition. And both units have little computers in them. They're called ESP32s, and they're small little computers that really are the brains of each unit. And they also handle the communication between each other, wireless communication. So it was kind of fun to do all that, and get it all working was a challenge. Um, but I'll move to the next slide. And this is kind of an example I want to show of indicate of how it works in a practical sense. And on the slide, I have the diagram that has a person in a kayak. It's like a top-down view from like a sky view looking down, and it has a person in a kayak, a blue kayak, and it's the guide, and the guide is wearing a beacon on their arm, and behind them is a blind kayaker who is in a yellow kayak. And normally, if that blind kayaker is directly on track with the guide pointing directly at them, they're going to feel like a heartbeat pulse in the center of their chest, and it's just going to be beep 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 beep, and that basically tells them if they're feeling it in the center of their chest, they're right on track. Um, in this diagram, if the kayaker veers, say to the right, and they go off track, what'll happen is immediately the pulses will shift from the center to that rib cage over to the side, telling you that you're off track, and that's the correction you have to make. So in this case, the blind kayaker veered to the right, so the pulses move to the left, telling them that's the direction that you need to correct to. So as they move their kayak back to the center, the pulses immediately move back to the center of the vest as well. So it basically gives you a reference as you turn, or if the guide turns. Suppose the guide makes a left-hand turn. Well, that means the pulses will also follow where the guide's going, and it means okay, your pulses are on the left side. So all the blind or visually impaired kayaker needs to do is just take a stroke with your kayak to move it back till they're back and centered and pulsing in the very center of their vest. And we found this method worked pretty well because it allows the guide to be more vigilant. There's less shouting and what we call rubbernecking, or they're turning around, checking and shouting other instructions. You still can talk, and we actually encourage that the guide and the blind kayaker stay within close range of each other so they can still converse and communicate verbally. And just that they don't the need for having the constant shouting or the tone is not necessary in that sense. I mentioned hands-free guidance. You can have both hands on the kayak paddle, and the person in the kayak can change some of the settings if they want to, increasing volume and whatnot, just by giving a voice command. And again, the blind kayaker's hearing channels freed up for conversation or description of the environment. I usually recommend, especially for kayaking and other sports, that a third person, as a wingman, wing girl, sidekick, whatever you call it, be near the blind or visually impaired athletes so that they're there as extra vigilance, also to describe the environment, say. Um, and it turns out being more relaxing for everybody. Um, and we found that that's been helpful. Um, so that's an example of how it tracks, at least in a kayak. If you were hiking or skiing, it would work very much the same. Stand-up paddleboarding, working the same. You're standing up, your hands are free for paddle. Your vest is telling you whether your guide is directly in front of you or off to the left or right. You can make your turn. When you're centered back up again, your vibrations return back to the center of the vest. It's usable for multiple sports, and um, found that handy. Um, this this I just moved to another slide which talks about the device itself. It has pictures of the devices, but I'll just explain that the beacon or smart beacon is just a little box. It's probably about the size of like a paperback book, and probably about the same weight. It has a couple of batteries in it, AA batteries. It's got two buttons on it. It's got one button just for power on or off. Then it has a large button on top of it, which is your mode button. And we use that when the guide is wearing this. He can give it a quick double tap to say start or stop, or if there's an emergency, he just gives that a tap, and it sends a signal back to the vest to stop. And this beacon can be worn with an armband on a bicep. It has a belt clip, so to clip on a belt, you can carabiner it to a backpack or a vest. Um, and it's durable. It can be dropped in water and withstand a beating, and it keeps on ticking. Uh, on the right side of this, there is a what I call a sports vest, a VibroGuide sports vest, and it shows the box, which is the main electronics box, which is sort of like in the upper center of the chest. And the vest is just made of like a airy mesh fabric that allows cooling through it. And the lower part of the front of the vest has what's called a vibration belt. And it doesn't wrap all the way around the body, but it basically goes underneath the Velcro straps. When you put the vest on, you can put it on over your head or on the side. It has a couple of straps that you secure with Velcro. And this vibration belt is what holds the five vibration motors around your body. And I have a diagram in the lower left of what that belt looks like from the inside. And each one of the vibration motors is encapsulated in like rubber. And it's not only for comfort, but also for waterproofing. And that vibration belt can be pulled off with Velcro. It has a cable that connects itself to the box. And that vibration belt we can move over to a life jacket. And the life jackets can be almost any type of life jacket, but it doesn't work well with the zipper up front types, but the types you pull over your head or get into from the side works quite well. What we do is we use an adhesive Velcro on the upper part of the life jacket to hold the box, electronic box for the vest, and then adhesive Velcro on the inside of the vest to hold the vibration belt. And the two just cable together, and you're up and running. We can move this back and forth from the sports vest to the life jacket in probably under a minute. It's pretty quick. Velcro is great stuff until it sticks to the things you don't want it to stick to. um,
Uh,
uh, but this made it sort of modular so that we can replace things and move it around, and it works out well as far as the configuration goes. Um, I'll move them next. I have a couple more slides here, but I'm not going to go through them in great detail. But um, the first time we put this on somebody, the vest on someone, it isn't where we're just going to, start put it on you in a kayak and tell you go out and paddle. We do some land training first and show you how to fit the vest, get it on, how to turn it on. And when we turn it on, when it first turns on, it's in sort of an idle mode. And what that means is you can feel a very gentle vibration in it, and it might talk to you. It'll say ready. Um, and we would have the guide stand out in front of them and maybe 10, 20 feet away. and turn their beacon on, and then slowly move around the person. Ask them to stay in one place, and then point to where they believe the guide is at. And that basically is a verification to the guide that they can follow you. They can follow you around. We do this quietly. We don't tell them we're moving to your right. We just move to the right or we move back or zigzag back and forth. And that just is verification that they can follow the beacon in the vest. It's your basic, just first level training.
Mhm.
Um, and then the second part is how do you determine distance? Um, and the second slide I'm going to go to here um, talks about that. And the way we are able to determine distance is within the system, there is a ranging module, and it basically is pretty accurate to within, oh, probably about 4 or 5 inches. Um, and the way the blind or visually impaired athlete is able to determine is, well, first start off, we ask them to stay in one place, and the guide will get maybe 10 feet in front of them. They turn it on, and when you are centered on your guide, not only do you hear the pulsing, you feel the pulsing in your vest, but you also will hear a tone. It's like a medium pitched tone, and the speed of that tone is something that's important initially. Um, and we'll ask the blind athlete to take a few steps forward. And when they move probably a foot or two out of what we call that sweet spot is sort of the distance that you normally want to keep between you and your guide. When they move a little closer, not only do the pulses speed up, but the pitch of the tone starts to go higher. So they know when they've moved forward too far, because not only has the pulses started going reacting faster, but the tone of the tone they're hearing, only when they're centered, is increasing as well. Uh, and then the other inverse of that is if we say, okay, we want you as the person wearing the vest to stay in one place, and we'll ask the guide to walk ahead a good distance. And once you walk further than what that initial sweet spot was, the pulses slow down, and they slow down and they change their tone into like a low pitch tone. So it's a way to reference where you're at. There's actually one mode on here that you can turn on or off. It's what I mentioned earlier that um, it has speech recognition in it. If the person wearing the vest wants to hear exactly how many feet they are, they can give the command. They say vest, they wait for it to say ready, and you say squawk. And squawk command just means tell me everything. Tell me if I'm on track and how many feet I am. And it will announce like every 3 or 4 seconds, 7 feet, 7 feet, 6 feet. Um, and if I start to turn or if I veer off direction, it'll tell me left, turn left to correct, to come back, or turn right. And that verbal or squawk mode is real handy when we're first learning it. We often find that when someone gets used to it, they don't really want all that noise because it's sort of like going back to the tones in the talk version of it. So they can just say squawk off, or they can also say vest quiet, and it means no tones, no talking. They're just feeling the vibrations.
Mhm.
So we made that configurable so that you can change it up or down. And again, we find most people after using this for 15, 20 minutes, they'll just say, just give it to me just with just the tone, or just give it to me quiet. And most are happy with just that. Um, so but I'm starting to wrap it up here now. Near the end here, I just have some pictures of people that have been using it for hiking or skiing and snowshoeing, cycling, rafting, and inflatables, where we have people in inflatable kayaks, which are great for anyone that wants to try kayaking because an inflatable kayak, or we also call them duckies, are a lot more forgiving. If you want to take it into water that's maybe a little choppy, or we have some people using in whitewater. or you can try or get a hard shell kayak and see how that goes. We usually have people start maybe an inflatable because it's more forgiving, then move to a regular kayak, and that can work quite well. Um, but I have a video which we can include in the link, which I won't play at this time, but it's really just taken at the National Veterans Sports Clinic, Summer Sports Clinic in San Diego last year. I've been a coach and guide at that for probably 8 or 9 years. I understand they're not having it this year in 2026. But there's a short video taken of one of our blind veterans who was there, her using it around Mission Bay. Um, so if you have an opportunity, you can click on that link and you can watch that. And our last slide, it just credits is basically the how I got started with this and the people who helped me develop this, which was primarily Team River Runner. They provided the inspiration and adaptive education and many experiences. I've been with them for 17 years, and over that time, I think I've taught at clinics. I'd say in every area of the country, Colorado and Pennsylvania and North Carolina and Virginia and Florida, Everglades and California. And it's been a great experience. Um, and during those travels, at some point, the Department of Veteran Affairs saw us using this. He said, "Hey, you need to get plugged into our what we call our Innovators Greenhouse Network, which is a program within the VA that helps inspire and helps inventions that are useful to vets with disabilities." And I've been working with them for about 2 years. And we've sent samples of the equipment to various locations around the country and gotten feedback from their various specialists and um, rehab folks and incorporated some of those suggestions into the what we have now. Um, and lastly, I'm working right now with what's called Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, and they're located in Troy, New York. Um, and it's a project working with them where they have a copy of my vest and system, VibroGuide, and students are using it as a mentor and teaching aid, but they're also looking to merge it with another uh, ability app called Soundscape. Some of you may be familiar with that. Some years ago, Microsoft developed what's called Soundscape, which was a almost like a Google Maps or a Waze app for blind guidance. And what it did differently is it sent um, directional information, spatial information into headphones. And so that a person can kind of spatially orient by determining in the headphones whether a sound is coming from the right or left. It would have like a beacon sound. And we're looking to see if we can incorporate their technology with a vibrational technology as well. Uh, so that's where we're at. I have a patent pending right now with the U.S. Patent Office. Don't know where it's going to go at this point. We have 6 prototype sets built, and right now I'm lending it out to various adaptive groups and organizations. I mentioned Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute right now. And when there are clinics available, we make it available for people to test and to try out and provide us with feedback, testimonials. At some point, we'll look to get a grant to help us build more of these and get them out in the hands of vets and civilians that can benefit from it. Um, so, uh, but that's my um, my my presentation. So I'll come back to back to the Zoom here. Let me see if I can get out of this, unshare it. Stop share. There we go. I'm back. All right.
Yeah, welcome back.
Yeah,
Well, that gave me a couple questions. I want to know how much
sure.
does each unit cost?
Oh, yeah. Everybody asks that. I don't have a firm question answer for that. It'll. I have an idea what my costs are, but my costs are expensive right now because I build each one individually and they're handmade. If I could automate that process, or and not only just to build the vest, but also the electronics in it as well, it would cost to come down quite a bit. Right now, it would probably be in the 12 to $1,800 range. I'd like to get that under $1,000. I know the VA will approve equipment if it enhances a person's lifestyle, provided they're currently in that lifestyle. If someone is not active, they probably wouldn't approve it. Um, but at this point right now, that we're looking to that's our step we're going through right now. Not only grants for funding, but putting a price on it to see how much we can, you know, what is a agreeable cost and price for it. So
It's,
yeah,
yeah, that you don't want to overprice it where people can't afford it,
yeah,
but you don't want to underprice it.
yeah, because
You're
that's
not
a quick
making
way to
money to
go
pay
out.
for it.
Yeah, if I don't make a small profit on it, or if whatever we're doing with it isn't making a small profit, then it's not going to pay the bills.
Right.
I can tell you that my parts alone are probably in the 800 to $900 area when I assemble all the parts on it right now. Now that's not buying them in bulk, but I also probably spend 2 to 3 days building each one, 2 full days building each one. So there's a time aspect to it. And if I knew that I could build 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 of these, I could buy in quantity a lot of the parts and bring that price down. So, yeah,
Uh, what made you decide to do this? I know you were a kayaker,
yeah.
but you're not visually impaired yourself, are you?
No, well, I actually have a 2200 in one eye. It didn't stop the Marine Corps from taking me in 1969. As long as I could fire a rifle with my left eye, that could work pretty well. But correct, I wear glasses, but I'm not. What got me really interested in it was two things. It was kind of a cool project that I really thought would not only could benefit people because there's a lot of projects we get involved with that, and in my career working for banks, I've been involved with a lot of projects that really didn't benefit anybody except the bank. So I kind of like this in that, hey, it helps people. Uh, Secondly, I retired probably, let's see, it's been about 6 years now, and it helps me keep my neurons, my brain cells firing. Um, a lot of people, when they retire, um, they kind of spend their life on the golf course or lounging around, and I do enough of that, but I and kayaking, but this kind of gives me a project and a mission, and it's beneficial to me to have that. And if I had to give one set of advice to anybody retiring or just looking for, how they can put some meaning in their life, it's to have a mission, and that's to find a purpose that you feel satisfied with and give satisfaction to others. If you don't have that, you're kind of left to just sit around and watch TV, and that's not healthy. A lot of it's not healthy. So I do it as much for me as I do it for others. So
Yeah, there's a funny story I heard about some friends of mine are involved in kayaking, whitewater kayaking, and they went and did the Grand Canyon, and they're blind.
yep,
And Lonnie Bedwell is
I
one.
know Lonnie. Yep.
Yeah. And anyway, it was a group of 8 of them, I think, went down the Grand Canyon a few years back. And afterwards, they said, "You got to get rid of that damn cowbell, Lonnie. It's driving us crazy."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He
Nothing
was
like advertising or coming down the river. Yeah, I know
right.
Lonnie, and I know a number of the other people who were on that trip. And yeah, it was an amazing trip. And a lot of the vets and the blind vets that went on are amazing people in their own right. They've overcome a good deal of obstacles, and they can do things that sighted people can't do, and they continue to do that every day, and that I'm always in awe at that. Uh,
Yeah, I've interviewed just about all of them that went on
yeah,
that trip at one time or another. But it's they're amazing people. Every one of them are. Brian Harris, for one,
yeah,
he's missing a leg and
I
he's
know
still
Brian.
out there doing it. Yeah, I'm
Yep, I
sure
know
you know them
Brian.
all. Yeah,
Yeah, if they've been involved with Team River Runner, I know a number of several of them just got off of Mount Kilimanjaro, uh,
right, right.
and that was kind of amazing experience. I'm sure it was rough and tough, but they
Yes,
endured it.
it's
And,
Aaron Hale and Lonnie
yeah,
Bedwell.
yep, I know Aaron and all of them. So yeah, they all are great in their own world um, and offer inspiration to everyone else. So that's a great thing.
Yeah. So it's such a small world when you get in the blind community.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing everything that I've learned since I've become visually impaired myself.
Yep. Well, I've gotten familiar with you, I think a couple of years ago, and I follow your blind spot mostly on
Wonderful.
Facebook, and it's great. It's great you do this, and that's your mission, and that gives you purpose, and that's
Right.
important.
It is.
So
And doing the podcast, it's been eye-opening.
yeah,
It's been educational, and I've learned a lot myself on how to do the technical things. So, because I don't have a company or a crew that does this, I do it all myself.
yep,
From the raw interview, editing, putting it all together, and then publishing it. So
yep, yep,
I've learned a lot, and hopefully
yeah,
it's getting better and better.
yep. And the technology aspect of it is amazing. I think I was amazed. I was with one of our vets, Travis Fugate, um, and I was with him in a city, and we had to get to the other side of the city. And I had not ever used Uber before. And he said, "Oh, are you kidding?" He said, "That's great. That's how I get around." So I was amazed at watching him get on his phone and contact Uber. And he said, "Yeah, look for a blue Camry coming down the street in about 8 minutes." And I'm thinking, "Oh, that's cool." I said, "Well, how does he know to look for you?" And he said, "Well, I'll hold my cane up or hold my arm up, and they know to look for me." And so we got in the Uber and um, we got out, and they said, "Well, should I tip him?" He said, "No, it's all taken care of." And I think, wow, he's far more advanced technologically than I was, especially at that time. So that was great.
Now they have in some areas of the country they have these driverless Ubers,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
way around I think, or
Yep.
Waymo I think is who does that.
Yep. Yep. It'll take a while for people to trust them, I think,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Well, I
but
tell you, it's been
yeah,
a pleasure. Is there anything else you want to bring up before we say goodbye?
no, I welcome input. If folks have questions. I'm Jim Riley, Jim.Riley, Riley at VibroGuide.com. You can go on the website and it's VibroGuide.com. And I'm also Jim Riley, Jim.Riley at TeamRiverRunner.org. So shoot an email and ask me questions, comments. It's always good. Um, I've learned so much um, from input from people and suggestions.
Okay.
So,
I'll definitely put that on the screen so they can see it.
yep,
And how about a phone number they can reach you or no?
610 area code 836 1923.
Okay. I'll have that on there. And please, folks, um, Don't call him in the middle of the night if you have an epiphany. Wait
Yeah,
until the morning
yeah.
and just
For
try
you,
to
for
keep
you
it a
West,
business.
I'm in Philadelphia, so that's probably directed at more of the West Coasters, you know.
Yeah. So keep it during normal business hours, uh, and be kind. And please pass this on to all your friends. Don't forget to subscribe. That's I don't earn any money for doing this, but uh, YouTube likes to see all the people that subscribe, and that will also alert you when the next episode comes published. Um, if you want to reach me, you can reach me at theblindspot298@gmail.com. That's theblindspot298@gmail.com. You can find us on Google, Apple Podcasts, also Spotify, and any of the other platforms that are out there. I'm on most of the major platforms. Just look for The Blind Spot by Ray Morales. All right, well, that ends another episode of The Blind Spot. And
Great.
Jim, thank you so much for being here, buddy. I appreciate you.
My
And
pleasure.
I look forward to chatting again sometime.
Great.
All right.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you.